Hello, book lovers. Welcome to the 81st episode of Kiwi and the Bird, Book Nerds in Session.
I'm Taylor, and I love that it's almost Thanksgiving because then I get to eat so much.
Oh, it is November, isn't it?
It is.
I was in like a limbo state for a second there. So.
It's daylight savings.
That's so fair on my part. But I'm Keimi, and I love arrogant Taylor. She doesn't come out often, but when she does, it's a hoot and a half.
Arrogant Taylor is the person who would be punished in Greek mythology.
Oh, absolutely. You would have a Greek myth based around you.
And in today's episode, we're taking 15 minutes to review Carissa Broadbent's, real fast side tangent, that's a cool author name.
Yeah, is that your real name? Because if so, like, good on you for marrying and or just inheriting that name.
Like, how does that happen?
Exactly. Like, if I get married, I'm keeping mine. My name's too cool.
It literally is. Don't ever change your name.
Thank
Even
you.
though that's a personal thing that I can't direct. But we're going to review The Serpent and the Wings of Night, a
romantasy.
Yes. That asks the question, how much betrayal can one person survive?
The answer might surprise you.
Honestly, I barely survived how much betrayal was in this book.
I couldn't survive one thing that happened. I would be so hurt that I would just die of hurt feelings.
If I went one night without eating, I wouldn't even survive that, let alone all the betrayal that happened.
No, thank you. But if you're wondering how book recommendations go, it's simple. Taylor and I chat about the characters, the setting, the writing style, and we give our favorite things for The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Plus, we do it without sharing any spoilers.
Or if we do, it's on accident.
And we edit it out.
That's kind of our new slogan. Stay until the end of the episode to hear our official rating for this book.
And before we get to the episode, if you like Kiwi and the Bird and you want to support us, our Venmo is at Kiwi and the Bird. Thank you so much for helping us live our book nerd dream.
And now, on to the recommendations. Before we start with the synopsis for this book, let's talk about what's in this book and what's not in this book. As in, like, what's the rating? Like, can you read this if you're a certain age? We don't know. Well, we do know.
Yeah, if you're under 18, don't read this book.
Don't read this book, because this book has swearing, gore, violence, and it does have sex. If it was a movie or a TV show, it would be rated TVMA or R.
Yeah, I would kind of like a hard MA, too.
Yeah.
Not like a soft MA for just, like, language. Kind of a hard one.
Like, you might be scarred.
Just a bit. So yes, no people under 18. I don't care how much you love Sarah J. Maas. Thank you. Now to the synopsis. Many years ago, the vampire king of the House of Night came upon a little human girl in the remains of her family and the rebellion he just suppressed. In her silver eyes, he saw himself, a serpent who would do anything to survive, and impulsively took her in. Now Araya understands just how large a weakness being a human in a palace full of vampires is. Until the goddess Nyaxia arrives, offering Araya a way to power she's never had before. However, to win, she has to compete against the bloodthirsty houses of her country, each bloodline known for being brutal, unforgiving, and merciless. Triple threat.
You're not wrong.
As the only human contestant, she'll have to outwit her significantly stronger opponents, one of which is Rain Oshraj, a vampire from the opposing side of the impending civil war.
Oh.
As the competition grows fearsome and Rain and Araya become closer, Araya knows her humanity is her ultimate weakness. Will her human heart finally bleed out?
Like Keimi so wonderfully said in the synopsis, one of our main characters is Araya, and 3 words we would use to describe her is... I read that as disturbing. Sorry. Distrusting.
She's a little disturbing, I won't lie to you.
Distrusting, honest, and cutthroat. Keimi, what did you think about our protagonist?
Overall, I liked her.
Wait, that's, you guys, it's kind of rare.
It is kind of rare. Okay, actually, caveat. I liked her for about a half of the book. I didn't like her the first fourth, and I didn't like her the last fourth, but I liked her in, like, the middle half.
That's the most specific analysis I've ever heard.
Because things that I liked that she was very closed off. I liked that you know, being a human in vampire territory, like, it made sense to her character, why she was the way she is. And I really appreciated that I understood her motivations throughout the whole story. I was like, no, this makes sense. I understand why you're doing what you're doing, which is very important.
Sorry, that was a loud inhale. Forgive me.
I also appreciated that she actually used her training quite a bit. It's not like she was trained for nothing, which is also rare. With that said, I do think her character development was lacking. And I wanted to see a bit more consistency with her character. But with this story and, like, who she was, I did, for the most part, like her character.
I don't have as specific as... Yeah, I think with Araya, I liked that she was very realistic for the world that she was in. Mm-hmm. Being a human that grew up in a house of vampires where everyone wants to kill you, even if you so much as look at them, or if they even smell you, which is kind of disturbing. I think her being as guarded and closed off and as distrusting as she is makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I liked that her character, her personality felt grounded within this setting. She's not optimistic. She's not trying to find hope where there isn't any.
Yeah.
She's just trying to survive, and she's kind of trying to claw her way to power in any way that she can. So going so far that she's willing to put her life at risk.
Yeah.
I think that, I think she had a good balance of being hard-edged, but then being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I think the only note I have on her character isn't necessarily her character, but a little bit of her training, because I felt like one aspect of her abilities developed pretty fast.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I see that.
To be vague.
To make you go listen to our discussion episode.
And so that's kind of my only note with her. But yeah, I felt she did a really good job as the protagonist of the story.
She has bronze skin, by the way. I don't care what other descriptions or what fan art says. She has darker skin. Thank you for my TED talk.
For your Kiwi talk.
For my Kiwi talk. Our other character, I'm just going to say other character. Our other character in this story is Rain Oshraj. And he is calculated, duplicitous, but somehow warm. Somehow. What did you think about our Rain?
Yes, Rain. He was very interesting.
He was, yeah.
He was a very interesting character because he is warm, he is forthcoming, but then you do sense that little guy has a lot of thoughts in his head.
He's not little.
How you doing?
And I thought he was a very interesting character. I thought he was a very intriguing character. When he was on the page, you looked forward to reading about him, looked forward to seeing what he was going to say or do next. And as that might be a spoiler. Never mind.
Maybe go listen to our discussion.
I did like that for the romantasy genre, he stood out as a male character.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He doesn't fit the typical mold. I mean, physically he might, he's tall, dark, and handsome.
He's taller than everybody else.
He's so tall that even the ceiling is jealous.
He kills without issue.
But he did have, his personality, I think, is what really helped him to stand out. Mm-hmm. With that, I do wish that maybe it was a little bit more mysterious, and not mysterious in terms of personality, but in my want to know him deeper. I think that's my main thing with him.
Wanting to know his background.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's my only note. But otherwise, I'm like, you know what? I like a scary warrior who's jokey and willing to help a girl out,
Honestly, yeah, I agree. I think Rain was a bit more playful, I would say, than most romantasy male protagonists, because they have banter, obviously. A lot of it falls short, I won't lie to you. But in this story, I actually felt like the playfulness, like he was kind of almost the sunshine character to her grumpy, almost.
True.
I wouldn't quite put it that way, but that's like the trope that it's the most similar to.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely agree. He's not really like other male protagonists.
He's not like other.
Mostly because he actually had a background. He actually had character. He wasn't completely wrapped around the female that he was interested in. You know, he had other priorities in the story, and you could absolutely tell that something else was motivating him, and you weren't quite sure why he was doing what he was doing. So in that case, like, he was a very interesting character to read, and I really did appreciate that. Yes, while he is tall, dark, and handsome, he did stand out even physically with, like, the longer hair, the redder hair, the eyes were kind of to be expected, but
Burning red.
burning red. But even, yeah, just in the differences in his personality with, like, the warmer side, the kinder side, the playful side, that feels very forced with other characters, came a lot more naturally with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to our next topic, which is setting. This story takes place in the country of Opatres. I don't know if I said that right, but we're going to keep going. Primarily in the House of Night and the Moon Palace, two settings that are tinged with a crimson mist and an overlying threat of death. You can thank Keimi for that line because she came up with that.
Thanks.
So, Keimi, what did you think about our setting?
I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm a big world building person.
I did not know.
In case you didn't know. And my main issue with romanticides has always been that they never go into the world like I want them to. Right? I had that with Fourth Wing. I just wasn't interested with Court of Thorns and Roses. Right? It's just, it's difficult, apparently, in this genre to balance out actually creating a world and a story and the romance. I'll get into that later. But I really loved the layers that were put onto this world between what was happening within the House of Night, within the other houses, with the mention of other human kingdoms, things like that. And I think the author did a mostly great job of kind of completely enveloping you into that story with, like, the names of everything and how everything worked and how different peoples and people's races, like, had different no, strike that, please. I don't know what I'm saying. It was interesting to see all of the pieces that were laid into the story and how they all came together. That's a better way of saying that.
That was well said.
So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the setting, and I actually really loved. It's one of my favorite parts about the book.
Oh dang! I don't know how to follow up that line you said because that line was super good. Yeah, I think the setting. One of my favorite parts about this setting was the descriptions of the architecture, because I felt like it was told in a way that I could really see it. And it gave me kind of gothic vibes, kind of like the classic, dark vampire vibes.
Notre Dame.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then it still had enough of its own essence that it felt different as well. I think that the mythology was very interesting as well. I liked that the mythology played a part in the plot as an aspect. I thought that was very interesting and also a good way to get across the mythology, the culture and the goddess and things like that. And yeah, I felt like the setting was solid. I felt like it was a good vampiric setting as well.
It was a very interesting take on vampires too. One that I have not seen, which is something to be said because vampires are kind of everywhere.
Hoa, hoa, hoa.
Yeah, just really, I really liked the lore. I was very intrigued by it. I liked the little stories here and there.
Yeah, I was like, tell me this as I go to bed.
Yeah.
Put me to sleep gently.
It's what Divine Rivals should have been.
That's a shot taken. I like him.
Now, our next topic, the writing style. Tay, what did you think about our author, Carissa Broadbent?
Well, besides a fabulous name, which it is fabulous, I felt like the writing style was well done. This book, we were talking about it earlier, there's a lot that you get with this book. It might look like a regular, maybe 500-page book, but it packs a lot.
Oh my gosh, the font is so small.
And so I feel like you get a lot of book with this book in a good way. I think that if you really like world building, but then you also really like romance, that this is going to be a really good combo for you. For me, I did have some pacing things that I don't know if they're just personal to me or not. And so I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe something that isn't my typical go-to or my usual. And so maybe that's why it felt a little strange to me. But I felt like the pace kind of like went in and out, especially considering the competition factor of the plot. And so that's kind of my only note on the writing style, is just that.
I would agree, kind of in a different way.
Oh.
I actually think the pace was held pretty consistently, with the exception of how often I was taken out of the world.
Oh.
So I think I did feel that in and out, but with like me being taken out of the story. So for example, the use of real world cursing, I've always had an issue with that.
It is a note we've said many times on this podcast. And by many times, I mean like 3.
But it was also like I don't know why, but the word apartment really like took me out. Because then I think in a palace, you're not going to have an apartment.
It would be a chamber.
Yeah, or something like that. So I think just like those little things kind of like, just kind of took me out. And it usually happened in the slower parts of the story. So I do think that absolutely contributed. I did like the way she described things.
Yes.
I mean, things got really gory, and things like with the architecture, like you said, or even just like descriptions of characters. I really enjoyed the way things were done. It was very, very, gothic, very crimson, dark, shadowy, which I loved the consistency between them. My other thing too is romantasy writing style tends to be very, very similar in that things get overemphasized, which really bugs me, and it makes it very repetitive. I do feel like this book could have been so much smaller if things were just left and not overemphasized. So for example, there would be a line like, he looked over at her with like concern, and it's like he knew, he understood, like, right? It was like you were getting double of what the writing should have just said itself.
So it was too much like doubling down?
Yes. I've noticed that in many, many parts of the story. So that is one thing that did kind of bug me. But I mean, overall, she accomplished what she needed in the story. So pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. We're here to bring the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Just kidding. That makes us sound kind of mean. We don't intend to be. And now we're moving on to our next section, which is our favorite themes.
It might be our favorite section.
It makes sense. It's in the title. And so if you like
romantasy,
vampires,
wingspan,
complicated paternal relationships.
That one comes up a lot. Adoption.
Deadly competitions.
Magic.
Sun versus night.
Brutal injuries.
Gore.
Gingers.
But not like other gingers. That's been kind of our inside joke lately. Speaking of, being not like other humans.
Oh, blood tattoos.
Rival houses.
Snake analogies.
Teeth or biting.
Yeah. Gluttony.
The video game Hades.
A little bit. Just like a little bit, though, guys. Okay?
The character design.
Just the character designs. Poison.
Betrayal.
Lovers to enemies.
Platonic friendships.
Secret heirs.
The stars. Oh, sorry. There were a lot of S sounds right there. We were both like, shh.
It just adds to it. It's fine. From Blood and Ash.
A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Or Fourth Wing.
Then this might just be the book for you this November.
Yeah. Honestly, vampires are cold. It's getting cold. That's the reason I chose this book. Maybe pick it up at your local library or Barnes & Noble if you want to be fancy about it.
Or another place where you can buy books. Or you can steal it from a friend.
We're not sponsored. Just go to any bookstore.
Just get books.
Read. Aw, man.
That is Keimi's signal for the rating portion of the episode.
Because I don't know. Because I literally finish it the day of, so I don't have time to mull things over.
So it's as fresh as it can be.
Basically, yes.
So yes, on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being literal trash and 7 being fangirl mania, what would you rate this book? The Serpent and the Wings of Night.
Okay. I'm going to give this book a 4.8. It's pretty high.
That is pretty high.
It's not quite a 5 because there are certain things with romantasy that really, really bug me. And that did come up a little bit in this book. So I couldn't give it a 5. But I will say this is the best romantasy I have read. Ooh. Which is pretty high praise considering that I do read a lot of the genre while also not liking it. Because here's the thing. I like certain aspects of it. Right? I love the fantasy. I love the worlds. I love seeing different characters and side characters and all these things. But I hate that the romance is always a priority. But in this book, I do feel like it was pretty well balanced. So much so that I would want to read the sequel, but I did have issues here and there.
I was actually not expecting that rating because before we start recording the episodes, we basically have an episode before the episode amongst ourselves.
Oh, yeah, just to prepare.
And I wasn't expecting that rating.
Honestly, I surprised myself. It was very... I kind of winged it. Oh! What a terrible sound.
I think I'm going to have to match your rating. I think I'm going to go 4.8 as well.
Ooh, that's been a while since we've done that.
Because usually we get super specific with the rating.
Yeah, we do.
I think what this book did really well was that it was very different from other romantasy books. It's not like other romantasies.
It's not like other romantasies.
Which I think is a really powerful theme within the genre because it is gaining momentum. It is super popular online, on book talk and things. And so I liked that you could enjoy this book if you like romantasy, but then it was still a different entry into the romantasy space.
Yeah.
With that, I had a few themes with the pacing, the action scenes. I love action, and I felt like the action scenes were a little hard to follow.
Oh, yeah, I see that, yeah.
And so there were things like that, which are on the peskier side, that influenced my rating. But I felt like overall, the characters were solid. The romanced. I was in for it.
It really romanced, you guys.
It did romance.
Yeah. Romantasy fans will enjoy it.
And I felt like it was a really solid read. And so that's why I got a 4.8 for me. Which 4.8, or 4 is...
Page turner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I feel like this book was a page turner.
Yeah. I would agree. It's higher. Like, it almost reaches a 5.
Yeah.
But just not quite.
I think I gave, if I remember correctly, Fourth Wing a 5.
Really? I don't remember what I gave it.
I think you gave it a 4.8. I actually don't remember, though.
Lower.
I could be wrong.
I love how whenever we talk about our ratings, Tay usually is like, oh, I think I was like pretty mean and like I think I would actually rate it higher. And then there's me and I go, no, actually I read better books. I want to rate it lower.
The duality of man.
The juxtaposition, the dichotomy is within us.
The kiwi and the bird.
The yin and yang. Thank you so much for joining us today on Kiwi and the Bird. Let us know in Spotify's comments section or on social media what you thought about our rating for The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent.
Still a cool name. Speaking of social media, be sure to follow us. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
Gmail.
We are on Gmail. And so if you want to follow us, we're at Kiwi and the Bird. And if you want to email us, we're kiwiandthebirdpodcast@gmail.com.
Gmail.
The most lit social media.
No, it goes Venmo, Gmail, and then whatever else.
And then, what's MySpace?
There you go. That's the list. Join us for our next episode where we discuss The Serpent and the Wings of Night in full detail.
And remember, like a library, at Kiwi and the Bird, shh happens.